Good evening, and thank you all very much for coming. I'm Marcel Reicher, and on behalf of Rabbi Yisroel Reisman, Herman Berlin, Jeff Cohn, Fischl Gross, Chaim Pollack, and Joe Zoyman, and our wives, I would like to welcome you to this evening's event. I want to especially acknowledge Rabbi Binyamin Marwick, Rav of this Kehillah, Shomer Emunah, who has graciously allowed us his pulpit and who's been very supportive of putting on this community program. Marwick will follow this evening's presentation here in the main shul. For the other Detroiters, last night was Dan Petrie. So why are we all here? About 30 years ago, a group of friends got together, decided it would be nice to establish a Chavurah, to learn Nevi'im and Kesuvim, and approached Rabbi Yisroel Reisman to lead it. Fortunately for us, he agreed, and now over 30 years later, we've gone through all of Nach. Earlier this evening, the Chavurah made our own siyum, for which we invited Rabbi Yisroel Reisman, Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'das, and Rav of the Agud of Madison to speak. Rabbi Reisman says a weekly Motzei Shabbos Tanakh shir for over 1,200 people in New York in person, in addition to numerous locations worldwide via satellite, including this shul, Shomer Emunah, and the Agud of Park Heights. We wanted to share our happiness and, frankly, our pride in our accomplishment, and Rabbi Reisman was generous enough to agree to address the greater Baltimore community as well, and that's why we are here and how we got here. We are honored to welcome Rabbi Reisman. I am very much aware that approximately no one here has any interest in what I have to say. Not my divrei Torah, words of Musar or Hisoveris, or even my jokes. Too bad. I am certainly not the one to exhort others to learn, study, or do more. That is the job of others. But as we struggle to understand the beauty and the poetry and the wisdom and the joy and the inspiration and the challenges and the triumphs and the pain of the Psukim, each of us provided insights and perspectives that we would have never otherwise have considered. Pirkei Avos tells us, Aseh lecha Rav, kinei lecha chaver. For me, and I hope for them, my friends became my teacher, and our Rav became an even greater friend. And for that, I'm extremely grateful to you all. It is not a coincidence that Chaver and Chavurah share the same shoresh. It is also not for me to tell anyone about the importance, the centrality of Torah and learning in the life of a Jew. But I will tell you that in addition to the knowledge we gained, the Tuesday night Chavurah has been a lot of fun. And in the words of a great 20th century philosopher, it's fun to have fun, but you have to know how. Finally, it is upon me to introduce Rabbi Yisroel Reisman, who really needs no introduction. We have an extraordinary privilege in this community. We have many Rabbanim, Talmidei Chachamim, Magidei Shur, and Balabatim to learn from. But we have one who is known throughout the world for his ability to make even the most esoteric and remote concepts accessible and relevant, and to make the most mundane transcendent. Privilege has become a bad word in some academic sectors today, but we are indeed privileged to have Rabbi Yisroel Reisman in this community, and are privileged to have him address us briefly now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcel, for introducing me, but thank you for being the great friend that you are. And I cherish that friendship as I cherish the friendship of all the six members of the Chavurah. Rishus Marda Asra, the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Reisman, Ron of Ramban, Rabbi Yisai, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I would just like to say something that I'm sure all of the members of the Chavurah feel, and that is I want to thank our children and our grandchildren for coming here tonight. Some of them travel from great distances with great tircha, but they did it to be mechabed us, and they did it to honor us and to share in our simcha, and for that we are grateful both to our kids and our grandkids for coming. You know, there's a certain symmetry. All of us who have gone to Chumash parties and Kriya parties and Haschalas Gemara etc., etc. We went to our children's, we go to our grandchildren's. And now, ironically, the tables are turned. And they're coming to go ahead and to share and to shep nachas from their parents and from their grandparents. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it warms my heart to know that that my children, my grandchildren, and all of our children and grandchildren are here. Thank you very much for coming. We really, really, really appreciate your being here. Under normal circumstances, introducing the guest speaker should be limited to letting the audience know something about the speaker. Perhaps an anecdote about him and thanking him for coming. That would mean in this situation, as Marcel had already said, letting everyone know that not only is Rabbi Reisman one of the two Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivas Torah V'das, where he spends a majority of his day, but he's also the Rav of a very active and vibrant community and shul, the Agudas Yisrael of Madison. He also, as Marcel already mentioned, gives a nachshir that is seen and heard by hundreds, if not thousands, of people, that is broadcast nationally, including here in Baltimore, Maryland, via the TCN network. But in this situation, I think there is some background information that is important for the people to hear. What is this event about and how did it come about? More than 30 years ago, my wife and I attended our first Aguda convention. In those days, the Aguda convention were not held in fancy hotels, but it was held in an old Catskill hotel that had seen much better days. Rav Pam, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, Rabbi Reisman's Rebbe, spoke at the Shalashudas at that Aguda convention. And as he often did, he spoke about the need to provide chinuch to as many children in Eretz Yisrael as possible. This was a passion of his life. And even though it was an Aguda convention, he spoke about chinuch atzmoi. He barely touched Aguda at all. He was in the middle of his speech, and being that this was an old hotel, there was a power shortage, and the lights went out. And he continued to speak in the dark. He was about to quote from a Tanakh that was in front of him, but it was too dark for him to read. But that was no problem for Rav Pam, because he was a baki in Tanakh. And he proceeded to quote from a pasuk in Amos, verbatim and by heart. It's in a kapitel beis in Amos. V'anoichi haleisi eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim. The Rebbeinu Shalom tells Klal Yisrael, I took you out of Mitzrayim, b'midbar b'yim shana l'reshes es eretz ha'amayri, and I took you here to the land of Canaan, to take the land of the Amayrim. V'ekach mibnechem l'neviim u'bachurechem l'nazirim. Ha'afein zois b'Yisrael nu'um Hashem. And I established your sons as prophets, and some of your men, young men, as Nazirim. Is this not also so, O children of Israel? Batashku es ha-Nazirim yoyin, v'al-Neviim sivisim le'mor lo tinavu. But you gave the Nesiim wine to drink, and you commanded the prophets, saying, do not prophesy. And with a pained voice, and almost on the verge of tears, he described that this is what the situation in Eretz Yisrael that existed in Eretz Yisrael at that time, at the secular, anti-religious government wanted to do exactly that. Take Torah away from Yidden and Yiddish kinder. And as I heard that and I sat there in the dark, I sat there in amazement, not only from the content of his speech, but he quoted Omais as if it was Ashrei Yeshvei Veisecha. And I remember thinking to myself, I will never be such a baki in Tanakh. But at least I should learn Omais and the rest of Trei Asar, and indeed all of Tanakh. And that was my motivation, not only to learn Nach, but to start a Nach Chavurah with a group of friends. And so, 31 years ago, we started. And now these gentlemen sitting here tonight, Mr. Herman Berlin, Mr. Jeff Cohn, Mr. Fischl Gross, Mr. Chaim Pollack, Dr. Marcel Reicher, Mr. Yossi Zoyman, and I have been Messiahim all of Nevi'im and Ksuvim together. It has been held at the home of Yossi and Pearl Zoyman, and for all those years, all those years, Mrs. Zoyman has provided refreshments every week, even before Pesach. Hot chocolate chip cookies, latkes and applesauce every Tuesday of the Hanukkah. 31 years is a long time. When one thinks back to all that has transpired in those 31 years. And yet, through it all, we have remained together and kept at it for lo these 31 years. And that, in and of itself, is a cause for celebration. When we started, we were all young fathers with black hair and growing families. Now we are all Zaydis, Kanai Nahara, with gray or no hair, with grandchildren, some of whom are teenagers and beyond. Every Tuesday night, no matter what was going on, personally, nationally, and even on election nights, some of which held keen interest for all of us, we got together, no matter what. We started with Sefer Yeshua, and we finished our last Sefer Tehillim, last night. The Maral commenting on a medrash, an incredible medrash, that says that the defining posuk that encompass all of Yiddishkeit is not Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And it is not V'yohavta l'reacha kamaycha. But, says the Maral, we paskin, the Medrash paskins like the Mandomer that says that the defining posuk of Yiddishkeit is as hakeves echad tase v'aboiker ve'es hakeves hasheni tase ben arboim. The mitzvah to bring the korban tamid every single day, 365 days a year. That is the essence of Yiddishkeit. Tamidius, constancy, consistency, the day in, day out devotion to Torah, Tefillah, and Avodas Hashem. That is what being a Yid is all about. And that has been the guiding principle of our Chavurah. We wanted to do something chashuv to commemorate this event. Knowing all of this, I think we came up with the chashuv Maimed to mark this occasion. What could be more appropriate to commemorate the siyum of Nevi'im and Ksuvim than to bring in Rabbi Yisroel Reisman, a Talmud Muvhak of Rav Pam, and who, in the great tradition of the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Torah Vadas, beginning with Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, and then Rav Pam, and now Rav Reisman, who himself is a Baki and Nach. Earlier this year, Rabbi Reisman asked me to serve as a scholar in residence in his shul. I was hesitant. Does Flatbush really need another scholar in residence? I try to go to places like I did this year, to Norfolk, Virginia, to Edmonton, Alberta, to San Jose, California, where to see a guy with a beard is a novelty to them. But Avenue S in Flatbush, to see another guy in a black suit and a white shirt, do you really need that? And Rabbi Reisman told me that his balabatim are eager to listen, and they want to grow, and they would appreciate my coming. And part of the reason I said yes is l'chvoidai shel Rabbi Reisman. While there, people would come up to me, and Rabbi Reisman would introduce them to me, and saying something unique about every single mispalo that came up to me. It reminded me of the story of the balabos that came to a yeshiva. He went to the yeshiva, is looking for a son-in-law for his daughter. And he pointed to a guy in the Beis Medrash, and he says, "Who's that?" And the yeshiva would say, "Das is my ben Yochidel. That's my only son." And he would tell him about that boy. And then he'd point to another bacher and he'd say, "Who's that?" And he'd say, "Das is my ben Yochidel. That's my only son." So the balabos thought, I must be hearing wrong. And he tried a third guy. He says, "Das is my ben Yochidel." So he says, how could it be? 3 ben Yochidels? 3 only sons? And the Yeshiva said, "There's an Allah ben Yochidels." Each and every one is unique. And each and every one is my ben Yochidel. And that was the relationship I saw between Rabbi Reisman and his mispalim. And when he was out, when Rabbi Reisman was out of earshot, and I would talk to them, it was obvious the admiration and the appreciation and the love that his mispalim have for him, which, as we all know, is not always the case. I can tell you, Rabbi Reisman, that this Kehillah, the Kehillah Kadosha of Baltimore, is a Kehillah of people that are eager to listen and eager to learn and eager to grow. And therefore, how appropriate it is to ask Rabbi Reisman, the Rosh Yeshiva of Torah Vadas, the Rav of the Agudah of Madison, a Baki in Tanakh, ki lo no'eh v'chi lo yo'eh, and it's only right and fitting for him to address us here tonight on the occasion of our Siyum of Nevi'im Uksivim. Rabbi Yisroel Reisman.